Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Farr Show, where I am Damian Farr. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I always thank you, and I will continue to thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my show here. Tonight we're talking about Marvel's Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. First off, I want to start off with the rating that I'm going to give it, just to get that out of the way, and then just have it over, there somewhere, right next to the cover of the game. I give it an FAR. So let's go into the reasoning behind that a little bit. I love this game, personally. There's some issues that I have, like, to be honest, the way the DLC set up is a little messed up to me, where it's coming out each month. But we'll get into that after here. And then there's some little Easter eggs that I wish would have been included somehow. But it doesn't detract from the full game. Also, it's a video game that, has some flaws. The flaws I'm not going to list, if I'm being honest, just because personally I feel it's best to talk about the positives. So let's start off with the story here. Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for 8 years at this point, which is really sweet. I like the fact that he's been Spider-Man for a couple of years. So he's 23. And MJ and Peter are just friends. If I'm being honest, that gets resolved later on in the story, but that's not important. And then he works as a lab assistant for Dr. Octavius. Or Otto Octavius, excuse me. So, really, I thought that was a cool setup. Made it where he hasn't talked to MJ in a while. Made it where he, is helping one of the best villains in his rogues gallery there. So that was cool. So, going into the gameplay is pretty much Batman Arkham fight style, which is not a bad thing at all. Personally, that fight style is amazing. I love that fight style. So the fact that they took that combat and put it in a Spider-Man game, and then put the web swinging, so instead of batarangs, it was webs. So instead of batarangs, you'd stun the enemies with like web to the face and web to their body and everything, which I thought was great. That was a good idea. Why not take something that's great, like the Arkham combat, and use it for your game? And then, to my knowledge, it was built off of heavily modified Sunset Overdrive engine, which I haven't played Sunset Overdrive, but now I partially want to see, the differences. But after watching some videos of Sunset Overdrive, I easily see that it was built on that engine. Even the art styles are kind of similar. The Spider-Man game has that comic booky feel in a way, so does Sunset Overdrive. The Spider-Man game, though, has it a little turned down, if I'm being honest, which is perfectly fine by me. It's not as vibrant color-wise either, which, once again, perfectly fine. So let's go into Easter eggs, and there's a couple of them that I want to talk about. Avengers Tower is the easy one. In there. Love it. Then, Doctor Strange, the New York Sanctum, is in there. From Doctor Strange. Either the comics or the movies. Whatever floats your boat. I do like the Easter egg to the Avengers. That when you go near Avengers Tower, he says they're probably on the West Coast. So that's either a reference to a comic, to my knowledge, or it's a reference to how Square Enix is currently making an Avengers game, which I hope these can tie together somehow. I would love to see that, actually. I want to see a Marvel cinematic game universe, or a Marvel video game universe in some way. I think that'd be cool, and this could be the starting point, and then the Avengers game could be the next one. I think that'd be a sweet deal. And then, really, the other Easter egg that I want to talk about is either the fact that they kind of had the Ghostbusters firehouse, which is an actual firehouse in New York, so that's the reason it's there. But they had a little ghost on the back of it, which I think's amazing. But at the same time, Sony owns the Ghostbusters, well, Columbia, which is owned by Sony. I wish they would have just put, a little Easter egg in there somehow. That would have been better, like the actual Ghostbusters logo. That would be over the door, and if you peer into the windows, it would look like the Ghostbusters, firehouse on the inside. It doesn't have to even say the logo on the outside. I think just as long as it was on the inside, it would have been great. And then, personally, as a Donald Glover fan, I would have loved an Easter egg to him somehow, as Miles Morales. Or, maybe even a Star Wars Easter egg somehow in there. Just to make the world feel more like our own, if that makes sense. Because I've never been to New York, so I've seen the land. Well, I've been to New York once, excuse me. So I've seen the landmarks, but I haven't really got down and dirty into New York. So to me, the landmarks are cool, but if you would show me stuff that is real world per se, and I know what you're gonna say, Damien, a landmark is real world. Show me something that I know pretty well. I would have responded a little better to it. That's just a little nitpick of mine. Also, Donald Glover could have been like on a Star Wars solo poster or something like that. I think that would have been cool. They would have had to get the rights from Lucasfilm, but that's okay. That would have been cool to see, but I'm fine with it not being there, if I'm being honest. And now let's talk about the DLC. This is where I'm kind of giving the game an FAR, if I'm being honest. So Spider-Man: The City That Never Sleeps is the DLC, or the Season Pass, excuse me, that I've already bought, if I'm being honest. I bought it right the day of the game releasing because I played the game and I'm like, I like this. I'm going to get the DLC, which I know is not the way to go about it. The only problem I have with the DLC, if I'm being honest, is it's so close to the actual release of the game. Because you got the Heist, which comes out in October. This game just came out in September, so it seems ridiculous. October, the Heist is coming out. And then in November, Turf Wars is coming out. And then in December, Silver Linings is coming out. So it seems too close together, if I'm being honest. So it seems like the DLC's lessened by that. So personally, if they would have released, the first DLC in November, December, that would have been good. The second DLC in, like February or March, and then June and July, somewhere around there, I think it would have been a lot better. They could have more in the DLC, and then more bang for your buck right there. But that's just me. So personally, if you're a big Spider-Man fan, go play this game. If not, and you've seen Spider-Man in the MCU and everything like that, and you're starting to like the character, and you don't have a PS4, well, I'd recommend against it, maybe. I don't know. It's personal preference. If you feel like if you have a PS4 and you want to play a Spider-Man game, this is the Spider-Man game to play. This is the Spider-Man game, if I'm being honest. I haven't played any of the other ones, but I'm just assuming this is the best. And I don't plan on playing the other ones, So really, going into it, this is the Spider-Man game for anybody. If you don't like Spider-Man, then it's pretty much not for you. That's the only exception. If you like a little bit of Spider-Man, like I do, you can go ahead and play it and love it. If you're a huge Spider-Man fan, you can go ahead and play it and love it. So, what do you think about Spider-Man PS4? Tell me in the comments below. Have you played it? If not, tell me, what do you think about Spider-Man in general? And as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a far off night.